How we doing, everybody? And welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. We're coming back. It's Sunday. It is cold. It is just terrible outside. I can't even say it. It's just terrible outside. It is just absolutely terrible outside. It is right now. I believe it's like -5 or -7. Feels like -15. Like it is just ridiculous right now out there. But hey, it was a good weekend. It was a good weekend. Badgers got a win. Packers did not lose, right? So that's good. Packers didn't lose, so that's always a good thing there. But a lot of good football across the board. We want to get to it today here on the show. Aaron, how we doing? Sunday night, you got a little bit of snow out there. I didn't really know that up until watching that Philly and Rams game there, but got a little bit of snow.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like one of the only people, at least like between family, friends, all that like I live for the snow. If it's gonna be cold, I live for it. That's how I look at it. Now I could live without the cold altogether. That's fine, but yeah, I'm here for it. You know, shoveling. Just we talked about that before, where it's just kind of gives me some weird peace, man. I don't know what it is, but yeah, we got hit pretty good. It's not quite as cold. It's 15 here, so it's not. I wouldn't say it's warm by any measure, but not, I guess, absolutely frigid. Like your temperatures don't even make sense in my head. Like that hurts my head to think about. But yeah, doing pretty good. I mean, coming off an Eagles, it doesn't always feel like a win, but they got it done somehow. Again, I don't quite know how, but
Watching that game, it was about that third quarter, and I was sitting there with my uncle, we were watching the game, and I was like, the snow won this game. It wasn't the Eagles. It wasn't the Rams. And if you're an Eagles fan, I know you're an Eagles fan there, Aaron, but I will argue with Eagle fans all day long that between their two playoff games so far, between the snow and the Packers just killing themselves, what have they done to prove to me that they are a Super Bowl caliber team? They have good players. Yes, Saquon Barkley, fantastic. Saquon Barkley's fantastic. Jalen Carter, if he didn't do the stupid stuff on the sidelines and everything, I would love that guy. Like, he is a game wrecker. He'd be like an Aaron Donald kind of game wrecker. But he's just so stupid. He does the stupid stuff on the sideline, just irritates the crap out of me. So, but outside of that, fantastic player. Their D-line, fantastic. But today, I mean, I'm watching and I'm like, fumble. Kyren Williams fumbles it. It was just after that safety, when they got the safety, and Kyren Williams fumbles it right back to him. And it's like, you had the shot. You had the shot there to take care of it. And then Matt Stafford fumbles the ball. And it's like, you guys are trying your darndest to lose this game right now. And that last play, I don't get it. Well, first off, it was a 3rd and 2. What I don't understand is when it was a 3rd and 2 with like a minute to go, why are you trying to throw the football? Give it to Kyren Williams. Let him try to bust 2 yards. Get a first down. You got time. You're not trying not to give it back to the Eagles with any time. You got time. You got shots at the end zone. Then just get the first down. I didn't agree with the play calling. But that last throw Matt Stafford had, where was it going to? You chucked it out of bounds. Like, it blew my mind. Like, the last play of the Rams season had no shot. No shot.
No.
Like, that irritates the crap out of me. Like, at least throw a pick. At least throw it into the end zone and give Higbee, give Nakua, give somebody a shot. But nothing. It just, something was off. I don't know. Matt Stafford was having a rough day. He had a really rough day. The snow didn't help. And, his offensive line was kind of getting beaten up there. But I thought the Rams played fantastic. And that Jared Verse on that D-line for the Rams, he is going to be a game wrecker. Oh, I love watching him. And he talked the crap. Going into Philly. And I got to tell you, he deserved to talk to crap. Like, he walked in there, 2 sacks in that first half, 2 huge sacks in that first half. And he was in the backfield a lot during that game. Like, he backed it up. Like, you can talk crap and you don't back it up. He backed it up and then some in that game. And I know Eagles fans are upset with it. And they're yelling, at him and everything. And he's just like, bring it on, keep it coming. Like, this is awesome. I don't know. I love that. But I mean, the Rams did not help themselves. And that's the worst part. It was like the Packers, right? The Packers did not help themselves against the Eagles. The Rams did not help themselves against the Eagles. And it just makes you wonder, right? If you had a good game, if one of these two teams had a good game, what would have happened? Because Sirianni did not have his best game here, calling plays. Jalen Hurts stunk. I mean, anybody who wants to tell me Jalen Hurts had a good day, I don't know what football game you were watching. I really don't. He stunk. He stunk in this one. And I get it was snowing and everything like that, but that does not make up the excuse for playing like that. Like, he just looks off. He does not look good. And Saquon Barkley, that's it. Like, if Saquon Barkley doesn't bust that one out late, I mean, I don't know. If it was the Chiefs, they would have called holding on that because I'm watching Saquon break that one out, and I can't remember who it was for the Rams on that outside there, but he was getting held a little bit. Like, I wouldn't have called it, but he was getting held a little bit, and I'm like, a little bit of holding there. I don't know, like bust the hole open, but it happens. It happens. But even the Eagles' offensive line, Aaron, I'm like, the Eagles' offensive line isn't playing well. Like, there was, I don't like, you could look bits and pieces of this game and look that they were playing well, but when the Rams couldn't throw the football, I was like, it's over. They can't throw the football consistently. I was like, it's over. And then at the end of the game, they're chucking it down the field pretty easy. So it's like, where was this 10 minutes ago? I just don't get it. I don't know.
No, there's, I mean, from what you said, there's a lot to unpack. I mean, I think I'm with you on the fact, I think Kellen Moore sucks. I cannot stand, I think he is awful. I really do. Everybody wants to give him credit. They're good record. I think they're winning in spite of him. Like, I would be very happy if he takes a head coaching job. And I, honest to God, think he'll fall on his face so hard. The guy, he doesn't have a feel for the, maybe it's Sirianni sticking his nose in the offense because they said, he'll still have that permission to do so, but I don't necessarily buy it. When they had Shane Steichen, this offense looked so, like, it did, decision making looked better. Jalen Hurts looked more comfortable. Like, it just, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Jalen Hurts. He played like crap, like you said. He didn't look good. I think Matt Stafford absolutely was awful too. Hot garbage. Matt Stafford.
I don't know what was up with him today. It just did not look like even Matt's. I get the snow and everything, but even the that strip sack that they had, the strip sack, like he's holding onto it with one hand. Like, this isn't a veteran quarterback move. Like, you feel the pressure coming, you tuck the second hand in there. It didn't feel like Matt Stafford today.
No, that was bad. That was a bad showing for him. I mean, Cooper Kupp has become like a non-factor at this point. I mean, he's just, it's crazy to think that, but I mean, Puka played well. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but he looked like he was freezing his behind. Like, that guy, like, every time they paneled to his face, I'm like, this guy cannot withstand that. Like, he could not play another, let's just say another half of football in this weather. Like, he couldn't make it. So, I don't know. I agree with you. I think, if anybody's handing, other teams a chance, it's Jalen Hurts. Like, I mean, A.J. Brown had 2 drops that were horrible too. Like, the guy complains nonstop, get me the ball. He acts like a diva. He comes to the locker room, oh, I'm good. But you can tell he's upset. He's like a crybaby. He's like Terrell Owens to me at this point. And then, he goes out there today and drops 2 point blank, perfect passes. Like, Jalen's not giving you a lot of perfect passes on the day. The ones he did give you go right between his hands. Like, I get it's cold, but once again, you're talking all that nonsense during the week. You're diverting attention towards you, not the team. I hate that. I really do. He's just, I don't know. This team is, you can't play like that against a good, like the way the Commander. I don't want to.
You can't touch the Commanders playing like this. Can't. Like,
I can't. I don't want to smash on the Packers and the Rams, but they're not very good right now.
No, you can get away with it.
That's what I mean. Neither one of those teams impressed me. Like, not that the Eagles really impressed me, but those teams are just not that competitive. They're just not. So when you play a team like the Command, like if Jalen Hurts doesn't bring it next week, we're packing our bags and that's it. But I mean, a win's a win. I thought for sure the Rams were gonna, like put that in at the end. Like, I hated the play calling that last drive right before we give the ball back. That second down where they roll out, they're rolling Hurts out to his weak side. Like, I'm like, Kellen Moore 101, just guy's a genius. But it's that set up the punt. Then the Rams go down. I mean, the Rams, like you said, they're completing passes. Philly's playing like a soft shell defense in the fourth, like on that drive, like letting them basically have some of those. And it looked like a typical Philadelphia collapse, like in every way possible. But the Rams just, I mean, they sold when it really mattered. They had nothing. They really had just, and like you said so well there, it was like, if I'm a Rams fan, I'm really checked out on Stafford for a while, only because he didn't even give you a chance in the end. Like, what do you like? There's no excuse. There's none for me.
Why is Nakua running an out route? Why are you trying to hit the sideline? Like, that's a long, tough throw that you're trying to make Matthew Stafford make to Nakua there. I don't know. That one, 4th down, it's like 4th and 10, just hammer it. But the 3rd and 2 call, I don't like that 3rd and 2 call where you're trying to throw it there because, I mean, and nobody picked up the blitz or coming straight up the gun. Like, nobody saw him. Like, come on. Like, it's just terrible play calling all the way around. But, I mean, Eagles win. Like you said, a win's a win. I wouldn't even say Saquon Barkley won this game for him. I would say it was Jake Elliott. I would. Because for him to go out there,
he sold too at like the extra points. And I'm like,
in this one though today, I mean, to walk out there, what did he have? He had a couple field goals there, didn't he?
Yeah, three. I think
3 of them. Yeah, he was 3 for 3, 3 for 3, and 2 of them were in the snow where they had to clear him a spot. Like that's impressive. That's impressive. I know it wasn't from deep, but in the snow, that's hard to do. And I mean, put it on your snapper and also your holder there too. Because I was watching, and they showed the replay. I'm watching the holder catch that ball and have to put it down perfect, and it's like that's hard to do regular. That's even harder to do when it's snowing. Like that's hard. And to see him, it was perfect all the way through. Like Jake Elliott had himself a day. I mean, yeah, the extra points that it really irks you a little bit, but you take away 2 or 1 field goal in this game, and it's completely different. The Rams, 1 less field goal, right? The Rams, all they had to do was get in the field goal range then, and they could have tied it and went to overtime. So it completely changes this game. So Jake Elliott had a good day there, but yeah, like you said, I mean, you're not beating the Commanders playing like this. You're not. After watching them completely rout the Lions, I told you, Aaron, in our picks, right? I said to you, I said the Commanders
second straight week
beat the Lions. I said they could do it. And I was like, I'm watching that game, and they just, I mean, to talk about a good quarterback, Jane Daniels is a good quarterback. Like, that son of a gun didn't blink. I mean, the pressure was on. He's at Ford Field. The fans are riled up. That's a good defense. And they were dialing up blitz after blitz. And to see how many completions he had, I can't remember the stat. I saw it up on the TV screen when I was watching there. But to see how many completions he had when the blitz was on and he had guys in his face and he just dump it off and first down. It was a masterful performance. And I loved it. I loved it. Watching the Lions, I think they got too fancy, right? They threw that trick play in there. I was Jameson Williams tried to throw that one down the sideline to Jahmyr Gibbs, and it got picked off. I was like, why? They got too fancy with it. Jared Goff had one of his worst games at the worst possible time. And we've talked about guys having their worst game at the worst possible time. Jared Goff is suspect of that. But, I mean, I said it going in, that Lions defense, they had one of the worst pass defenses in the league. One of the worst. What did the Commanders do well? They sling that baby around, right? That's what they want to do. Loved it. Loved it there. We got Dustin, good buddy mine, Dustin, in the comments tonight here. He said the North looked ugly the last 2 weeks. Yeah, isn't that something? The NFC North, as great a division as it looked like, we didn't make it out of the divisional round. And the Lions got a free pass to get there, so you can't even count them. All teams knocked out in their first game there. That's something. I mean, that tells you the depth of a conference there. Regular season looked good. Lions kind of bit it in that second round there, but the Vikings and Packers, man, wow. I mean, puts into perspective what the rest of the league really looks like. But we did talk about the Eagles there, right? I mean, they're kind of just skidding along at this point here. I do expect the Eagles will figure it out. I do expect they're going to put.
They're going to, I mean, they either do that or they go home, though. That's the thing. Like, yeah, I don't think you'll see the Commander. I mean, if they drop a 40 piece on the Eagles, I'll be shocked just because, like, you know how you mentioned that the Lions defense isn't very good. Jared Goff is not very good in big games. Like now we can make that assumption. You know what I mean? He once again, I mean, you turn the ball over 3 times, you're going to put points on the board if you're Washington, but Washington's going to give you, I don't know. Like it's more so the way I'm not going to go as far as to say like Jane Daniels is better than Stafford. He probably is right now. Like at this particular moment. Yes. Yep. It's just the trajectory that like they're trending, like how we kind of talked about the Packers limping into the playoffs, how we talk about the Lions, like hot into the playoffs, but then boom, they're out. Like it's one of those, they are the hottest team in football, like bar none, they're the hottest team in football. Like no one expects them to be here. I mean, they haven't been in an NFC championship and I can't remember the year 1992 or something.
Yeah, something like crazy.
That. Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, they're playing with house money and then some, and that's the scary thing, right? Like Washington, I mean, yeah, they impressed. I think Detroit added to the fire. Detroit threw gasoline on the fire. Like they just said, you know what, have it. Because Goff just, oh man, that's, and I feel bad. I know they're a division rival for you, and I'm sure you're deep down, you're probably like, you know, clapping and things. But man,
oh yeah, I was all Commanders. I was all Commanders all night long. I was like, bury them, boys.
Those fans have, I mean, bar none, those fans have it. Probably the worst. I mean, Browns.
I
Lions.
just don't like Kirby Joseph. I don't like Kirby Joseph.
I don't either.
I don't
I'm
like
with you.
Ramon Ross St. Brown. I don't like those two. And they just put the whole narrative on that team then for me. But the one of the weekend, and this is the one I want to get to real fast here before we jump into the Packers, but that Texans-Chiefs game, that Patrick Mahomes twice. There's two calls in that game. And I hate blaming refs. I hate blaming refs with a passion. I do. But how are guys supposed to tackle anymore? Actually, I'll give you 3 calls, right? Because we did this new hip drop tackle, right? Dalton Schultz in the open field, there was a hip drop tackle. Literally, you can look up the definition of a hip drop tackle, and that play was it. Didn't call anything. No flag, right? No flag at all. Then Patrick Mahomes does a late slide. 2 Texans guys go over top of each other and hit each other's heads. They go over the top of them. Unnecessary roughness, right? Hitting the quarterback late. Another flag. Now Patrick Mahomes, he does this stupid thing. He does this all the time. And the Packers did it to him last year. I believe it was Jonathan Owens met him on the sideline. He goes and he'll go to the sideline, but he won't go out of bounds. He'll try to get an extra couple yards because he doesn't think you're going to hit him. Well, this one, he slowly went out of bounds to bait guys to come and hit him. So they hit him, pushed him out of bounds the rest of the way. Oh, flag. Throw the flag,
That's
right?
horrible.
He flopped. He flopped. Kansas City Chief fans, don't give me that crap. He flopped. You know that. You know he did. You know that was a late slide. I am so sick of this, right? Because and you know what makes me even more sickening was the Eagles-Packers game, that fumble on the kickoff. The NFL went back and they fined Owen Burks for an illegal hit to Keyshawn Nixon. We went to instant replay on that. How do you not see helmet-to-helmet contact there, but we can look a week later, and then we can come back and say that it's an illegal hit? I mean, honestly, it actually hurts me as a Packer fan because do you know what changed the entire tide of that game? The opening kickoff. Literally the opening kickoff. The Packers get the ball first. What happens? You fumble it. The Eagles get the ball. They score a touchdown. After that, the Packers defense only gave up 3 points in the entire half. You're talking about the difference between a 3-point game and a 10-point game going into half. That's huge. That's huge. But the NFL continues to do this crap with these refs where they're like, oh, yeah, let's cater to a guy. Let's call these late slide bull crap, right? I'm so sick of it. It's honestly, to me, it's when you leave the pocket, you're a runner. That's it. You're a runner now. You're no longer a quarterback. You're no longer in the pocket. You are now a runner. Why should we protect you more than we protect Saquon Barkley? Why should we protect you more than we protect Puka Nacua? When you leave that pocket, you are now clarified as a runner, and you're at your own risk. That's what you have to play it as, because you're asking defenders to go at half speed constantly. Half speed constantly. You can't do that. You can't ask them to do that. It's terrible. It is terrible. It's a terrible look on the game. And I'm so sick of watching this. Patrick Mahomes is he's the greatest quarterback in the game right now. Greatest quarterback in the game. Watching him play, he's fantastic. But I'm sick of these bullcrap calls. I am. Like, I don't want to say the reason why the Chiefs are going to the AFC Championship game again is because of the refs. I don't want to say that. But what I want to say is when you look at some of those plays within that game, the Texans got screwed. They got screwed. And it's amplified now. And we've seen it week after week after week after week, and it keeps happening. And everybody's like, well, at some point, we got to stop blaming the refs, right? The Chiefs are just good. We got to stop blaming the refs. Okay. Then play a game where people don't have to look back into it. Why is it always in crunch time? Why is it always in the most important moments that they call a holding? That there's something stupid that happens in a game that benefits solely one team. Explain that one to me. Vikings fans, don't tell me that it's because the Packers get all the calls. Because guess what? Keyshawn Nixon got head-to-head, and we didn't get a call there. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm so sick of the NFL reffing and officiating. I'm so sick of it at this point. All these craptastic rules that they're putting out there. I want to protect players. I do. I want players to be protected. I think they've put a lot of good rules in there to protect players. But at the same time, I think guys like Patrick Mahomes are taking advantage of those rules. And when you take advantage of those rules, then you need to fix it again. Because otherwise, you're taking away what a game could be.
No, absolutely. I mean, like you said, if you can't see it by now, you're either living through, your Kansas City Chiefs glasses, or you're just like, there's people that will never deny that the refs help certain teams or certain situations. Somebody gets hosed. I just truly believe that sometimes. without getting too like in depth on why. But here's an example, like perfect, class A example of the Chiefs just getting calls. Like and like you said, that call where he's like leaning towards the sideline, like I don't want to make it about the Eagles or whatnot. There was a play where Jalen Hurts was like completely out of bounds. Then they ripped him down out of bounds. Like he's completely out. Both feet are out, way out. Yep. And I'm like, okay, they're not going to call that. Like there's plenty of examples. I mean, watching this Bills Ravens game, like, and I'm not even a big like Lamar guy, whatever, but there's plays he gets absolutely rocked out, right near the sideline. They don't call it. Like he just gets back up. I've seen Baker Mayfield take absolute shots, like he's slammed into the bench, and they're not. But if somebody lays a finger on Mahomes in the wrong time, and that one play, I think he made a complete, or it was an incomplete. He throws it. The Texans guys he rocks him in the chest. Clean hit though, perfectly clean hit. And he's just looking at he has turned into LeBron to a certain degree. And it's a shame. Like, it's a shame we've gotten there in the NFL. I know it's about protecting the quarterbacks and keeping the guys, in the game as long as possible. But when does it end? Like, if it only gets worse, like it's to a lot of people I know, it's getting unwatchable already. And at the same rate, like I don't know if they're going to do anything about it. It's just he's the golden child now. He's like Brady 2.0. He's protected no matter what. And it sucks, but it's just like, if you like, it was somebody on the Texans, Anderson, I think last name there, defensive end Anderson. He's like, we knew we had to play we had to play everybody. We had to play the Chiefs, the refs, and everybody else. So, I mean, he's going to get a massive fine. I expect it, but I respect him for saying that, because that's keeping it real. I couldn't agree more. Like he hit the nail on the head. It's the situation now, and people are going to deny it and give you reasons why. But if you watch games and you deny it, I don't go somewhere else with that for me. So.
I don't want to take away from the Chiefs. They're a good team. They're a good team. Like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce's been playing well in the playoffs. Like, I don't want to take away from what they are. But why is there so much controversy after every win? Why? Why does there have to be so much controversy? Because of it. Win a football game straight up. That's all we're asking for. Don't have the refs. If you're the NFL, stay out of it. Let the game go on its own. Let it go on its own. We did have one across the Texan line. They said that he did the LeBron going out of bounds there. So they're in agreement with you on the LeBron. But Dustin brings up a good point there too. In that Lions game, Jared Goff on that interception, you're not supposed to be able to hit a quarterback if he's not going after the guy with the ball, right? You're not supposed to be able to hit the quarterback. They went and cleaned his clock. He went out with a concussion. Well, didn't go out with a concussion, right? But ended up in the medical tent after that, and Teddy Bridgewater had come in. But went straight to the NFL. I think it Mike Pereira I don't remember who was the rules analyst that they had on the game. But went straight to him, and he's like, yeah, that's supposed to be a flag. Like, that's a flag all day long. Like, you're not supposed to be able to hit a quarterback if he's not going after the guy who just picked off the football or anything like that. And no call. Jared Goff just gets lit up, ends up in the blue tent, no call. And I guarantee you, we're going to wait. And in a week from now, they're going to come back and they're going to say, oh, the NFL has fined so-and-so for the hit that he had on Jared Goff. Great. What does that do now? Right? Lions fans, how does it make you feel now? Right? Packer fans, how does it make you feel now that Owen Burks got a fine for hitting Keyshawn Nixon head-to-head, but, a legal penalty, right? It's a penalty in the game of football. And we're supposed to call this. We're supposed to be protecting players. No crown of the helmet going down. But Owen Burks gets a fine a week later. You went back to instant replay. You looked over it 14 times to see if Keyshawn Nixon had the ball. And a lot of people are in agreement that he did, but who cares, right? I'm over it now. But it's the fact that you go back a week later and you go, yeah, here you go, Owen Burks. Here's a fine.
Yeah, what's it matter? I mean,
what's it matter?
A lot of these guys, it's chump change, right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe to Owen Burks, it's not, because he's like, but it's. Yeah. It's just like you said, the fact that they're watching this in real time, and then they're maybe even not that, they miss it in real time. They see, like you said, they're sitting there and like they're watching it probably slower than we've ever seen it. Right. Yep. They have stuff, the technology they have access to, and they still get it wrong. Like, come on, man. Like, we're not that stupid. Like, Americans might not be the smartest people as a society, but come on, like, just be real, like, be authentic. Like, it's getting cheesy. It really, I mean, it is. It's certain guys get calls and certain guys, and that whole argument will, like, hey, Jordan Love wouldn't get that call. He hasn't earned the respect, but Patrick Mahomes, a flag's a flag. I don't agree with that in basketball. I don't agree with it. like, oh, LeBron needs, he gets that call every time. Why wasn't the guy on the Timberwolves on the bench get the same call? A call is a call, a penalty is a penalty. Like,
it doesn't change player by player. I agree.
No.
I've heard that before too. It's like, oh yeah, he's a vet, so he's earned the right to talk to the refs or to get this and get this. Like, no, why does it change? I don't care that LeBron's LeBron. If he wants to complain to a ref, if I was a ref, I don't care if you're LeBron or if you're Bronny. I don't care. I'm
Right.
teeing you up either way, right? I don't care. But it's a fact that we have referees out there who have to coddle veterans because, oh, they're the precious baby of the league. So that's what we got to do. That's what we got to do. We got to coddle. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I don't know how, like Tom Brady, they always said that he got special treatment. They always said Aaron Rodgers got special treatment. I don't like that. I don't. But now you see quarterbacks coming in like, as you said, Baker Mayfield, even Jay Daniels, Jared Goff, they get rocked and it's like, I didn't see it. I didn't see it, right? Keyshawn Nixon gets rocked on the opening kickoff, and we stop the game. We go and look at it, and we still don't see it, but we see it a week later, right? NFL officials had to have looked at it a week later and said, yeah, that was illegal contact. Who was looking at it night of? Night of. Who was looking at it? Because that's a game changer. That changes the whole complexion of that game, but yet nothing. We'll look at it a week later. We'll figure it out. I don't know. I don't want to believe the NFL's rigged. I don't because it's going to ruin everything for me if I believe it's rigged, right? Then it's like the WWE at that point. I don't want to believe it's rigged. But what I do believe is there's a lot of coddling that goes on and there's a lot of special treatment for certain players. I will agree. They're 100% with that. There's a lot of stupid agreement. I don't know how people can't see that. And if you can't, like you said, you have the Chiefs glasses on, you have whatever glasses on. If you don't believe that in certain holding calls, I've always said holding calls. You can call holding on every single play if you wanted to call it. But why does it only happen? If I'm a referee, I honestly don't understand it. End of games, I swallow my whistle. I do. Like if I was in an end of a game and it's like game on the line, like when the Rams were driving on the Eagles, I am calling nothing unless if it's blatant like pass interference or something stupid or terrible holding, right? He drags them to the ground or something crazy. I'm letting it go. Everything is let go. Because why? Why would you want to ruin a game? Why do you want to stamp your fingerprints all over what just happened in that game? I don't. I want to be the guy who's like, I ref that game. That was an epic comeback that the Rams just had. They drove down the field in the snow and put it in the end zone. Now, no penalties were really hingent on that drive. But what I'm saying is, like, if you would have called a holding or something, dropped the Rams back 15 yards, like something crazy like that.
And not to like, I swear to God, I'm not trying to make it about the Eagles all the time. It's just that holding call against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They put themselves in that position. Like the second half was the worst second half I've ever seen them play. But to call that, like where Bradbury doesn't even, I mean, they swipe by, right? Like they exchange hands basically. And to call that there and the ball wasn't even close to catchable. Like Mahomes just was like, I'm going to throw it there because I saw that for half a second. Like that is so Bush League to me. And like I said, I'm coming from an Eagles fan and that was like, that's the ball game. But that, I mean, like when it comes down to a call like that, that's holding, like that's pass interference. I've seen so much worse never get called. Not even like, what was that? The Saints and the Vikings or whatever. Guy got like lit up. He got like drilled before the ball came and like no flag. And then the referee's standing right there and he saw it happen. Like they want to call it when they want to call it. They don't when they don't. I don't know. People are still going to watch. That's the thing. It's just, they need to, in my opinion, they need to fix it. But until there's like, millions of people not watching it, they're not going to fix it. So
no, why would you? Why would you? You still can make money anyways. But yeah,
and people I think the NFL loves the contract. Like I think they love that people hate Mahomes. They hate Taylor Swift. Like I think they thrive on that. So
he's the new villain. He's the new villain in the NFL, and you need a villain, right? You need a villain in every league, and that's who it is right now. Right now, mine's the Eagles because they should have lost twice already, and somehow they keep moving on. So they're my villain at this point here. It's just like Aaron, I know you love the Eagles, and I know we're gonna get to an ad break here, but I know you love the Eagles. I know you do. It's just, man, oh man, if there was a less deserving team at this point, I don't know who it is. Like the Commanders, they worked their way to this point. The Lions had a bye. But the Eagles, I mean, the Packers laid an egg. They sucked themselves, right? 3 interceptions by Jordan Love. you had, fumble on the opening kickoff. And then you have the day with the Rams. Matthew Stafford fumbles twice. Kyron Williams fumbles once. 2 lost fumbles there. And then you also had the fumble when if Kyron Williams would have held onto the ball, I know he recovered that one, but if he would have held onto the ball, would have been a touchdown. Instead, he fumbles it backwards. They have to go back and get it, end up with a field goal. So many things that couldn't go the Rams' way. And it's just like, oh man, the Eagles are winning games, right? They're winning games, and that's what matters. But at the same time, it's like everything that could go wrong for the opposing teams is going wrong for those opposing teams right now.
Just at least sit with this is we have one Super Bowl. It took everything to get the one we had. So it's not like it's like we're the Lions, but we've just had a little bit more success. You know what I mean? Like it's not like we're some powerhouse like New England team that was getting every call. They come up with a call for the tuck rule. That is the most atrocity. That's one of the biggest atrocities ever in the NFL, in my opinion. The Raiders had that game in their grasp and they get ripped it out and they make a rule after the fact. So I'm not here to if you don't want the Eagles to advance, I get it. I understand. But at least we get punched in the gut time and time. And our own team does it too. Our own team does it. So I
don't hate the Eagles. I don't hate them. I just think all the Eagles fans out there that I have to listen to right now tell me that, they're playing such good football right now. And they're doing this well and this well. And it's like, yeah, but Jalen Hurts is sucking. And I still don't trust you can't trust the receiving core if you don't have a quarterback to throw to them. So there's that. The offensive line looked awful today. They didn't look good. They had times, they had moments. But outside of that, I didn't think the offensive line looked good. The defense, the front four looked good. But after that, Zach Bond looked good. Don't get me wrong. Zach Bond always looks good. But the secondary, Wisconsin guy, I always got to give him his props, right? Today, I was like, my uncle and I were sitting there. I was like, he's like, yeah, Zach Bond, got to cheer for him, Wisconsin, right? I'm like, today, I don't know. Where he's crossing lines. Still like him, but dude, wrong team. All right. Wrong team there. But the secondary for the Eagles still gives me nerves right now. So it's like, if you're an Eagles fan out there and you're like, this Eagles team is rolling, pump the brakes, boys. Pump the brakes. You ain't beating the Chiefs and the refs playing like this. That's all I'm going to say.
Got to play those refs.
You got to play those refs too. So we got to hit an ad break. We're going to come back. We had Brian Gutekunst talking to the media. We did not get to that last week there. So we want to get to that today here. We got to talk about the Badgers. We got to talk about the Xavier Lucas situation. We're going to talk about Xavier Lucas on the backside of this ad break here. So we'll see you guys on the other side.
This show is brought to you by these fantastic sponsors. Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in to see the awesome crew at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville. Next, we have Sport and Spine Clinic of Greenwood. Have you been injured recently, whether it was at work, shoveling snow, or mowing the lawn? Stop in and see Chad at Sport and Spine Clinic in Greenwood. He will get you right, get you back to work, back to shoveling snow, back to mowing the lawn, doing whatever you were doing, feeling better than ever. And then we have Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Do you have a sports club or team? Are you looking for some sweet custom uniforms or apparel? Check out the awesome crew at Game Day Supply in Onalaska to help your team get the sweetest gear.
I just saw across Twitter there that Zadarius Smith is no longer satisfied with the direction of the Lions. So he will now be joining the Chicago Bears because he's dissatisfied with the Packers, the Vikings, and the Lions now. So he's going to go to the Bears to beat up on all three because he's psychotic like that. So just saw that across Twitter. Did not see that he's going to the Bears. Just saw that he's dissatisfied. So he's only got one team left that he could go to beat the crap out of the other one. So we'll see him with the Bears next season there. So Aaron, let's get into it. Xavier Lucas, the guy, the saga that keeps on giving, keeps us here, gives us just loving this. The Xavier Lucas saga continues. UW came out and told us their statement. So did the Big Ten. So now we got the Big Ten involved too. The Big Ten Conference stands in full support of the University of Wisconsin regarding the contractual agreement between student athlete Xavier Lucas and the Wisconsin football program. As student athletes become active participants in revenue sharing, it is critical that agreed to obligations be respected, honored, and enforced. In light of the current law and associations in light of the current laws and association rules, information suggesting tampering and contract interference in the case by the University of Miami is very troubling. These actions undermine the efforts of its own conference as the ACC continues its collaboration with other A4 conferences in developing a sustainable framework for college sports. The situation is just the latest example of a critical need for substantial governance reform. So the Big Ten Conference is now backing the Badgers. I love that. I love that the Big Ten said, dude, we got your backs. We understand what you're fighting for. We got your backs there. And I have Wisconsin's statement here too. As UW. So they said, we are disappointed that Xavier Lucas has chosen to withdraw from the University of Wisconsin. He has been a valued member of the football program. We were looking forward to helping him continue to grow as a student, a person, and a football player. On December 2nd, 2024, Xavier and Wisconsin Athletics entered a binding 2-year NIL agreement reflecting his strong commitment to continuing with the university. We understand that he has also executed a separate agreement with the varsity collective. His agreement with Wisconsin Athletics included substantial financial compensation for Xavier under the terms of the agreement between Xavier and Wisconsin Athletics. It remains in effect and enforceable. Badger student athletes who have signed these agreements expect Wisconsin Athletics to honor the terms. In turn, Wisconsin Athletics relies on student athletes' representations in signing these agreements that will do the same. A request to enter the transfer portal after entering into such an agreement is inconsistent with the representations and mutual understanding of the agreement and explains the reason for not processing a transfer portal request under these circumstances. So basically, it goes on to talk about, everything they had to do in there. But, well, we got our story. We got our story now. We know that there's a contract. We know that it was in place. We know that it binded Xavier Lucas to the university for 2 years. And Xavier Lucas tried to dip. And he did. He withdrew from the University of Wisconsin because they wouldn't honor his transfer portal. So he withdrew, and he is currently enrolled in Miami. So he enrolled to the University of Miami now. I love it. I love it because that boy ain't going to play a lick of football down there until this whole thing's figured out. He ain't getting in for spring practice. He can't transfer. He legally has not transferred yet to the university. So I don't know if he can sign up for football at this point here. So the University of Wisconsin, they came out and they said, dude, we got you signed up for 2 years. You agreed to this. We agreed to this. You have money coming from the varsity collective too, and you're going to try and back out now. They're sticking to their guns. They're not. And the best part is I had to see that numbnuts over there on Twitter. They're his Twitter lawyer, right? The guy who's the NIL director down there, whatever you want to call him. He teaches NIL and everything about it down at Miami. He came out and he's like, Wisconsin doesn't have any grounds to stand on and everything like that. They can't hold him accountable to this and everything like that. And I wanted to tweet back to him and just say, dude, do you think the Big Ten lawyers and Wisconsin lawyers wouldn't have told Wisconsin or the Big Ten not to get involved with this if they thought this was going to end poorly for them? The big money corporation, as in the Big Ten, wouldn't have stuck their nose into it and would have said, Wisconsin, you're on your own. We don't agree with you. We're not in agreement with you. You don't have a case here. We're not going to back you, right? Why would the Big Ten have backed Wisconsin if they didn't agree? If they were like, you don't have ground to stand on. They want to protect their guys, right? They want to protect Wisconsin. So they would have said, you guys got to back down. You guys got to back down. Like, let's just let this go. Back down. But the Big Ten said, nope. We back them. We're in agreement with Wisconsin. We agree with what they're standing on here. And then Wisconsin stands on it. Aaron, I'm telling you this now. This ain't going to end pretty, and it ain't going to end pretty for Xavier Lucas. I don't care what anybody says at this point. I don't, because if anybody out there is trying to defend Xavier Lucas, I want you to put this into perspective for a second, okay? Imagine you're an employer. Imagine you're an employer for a second, and you hire on a guy. You sign him to a contract, right? Contract says, I'm going to give you this amount of money, but you got to play 2 years for me. You got to work 2 years for me, right? You got to work 2 years. And after this was just signed December 2nd. This is after the season, right? So 2 more years. And you didn't even work a day in that contract. And you just said, I want to go. I want to leave, right? How would you feel as an employer, right? How would you feel? These are employees. At the end of the day, this is what I want everybody to realize, and I don't understand how hard it is to realize. When money is being shared, when money's being split around, you are now an employee. You now work. That's your job now. It's plain and simple. You sign a contract, It's plain and simple. I don't understand how these hard-headed people, there's hard-headed people out there, because there was thousands of comments on this saying that Xavier Lucas, free Xavier Lucas, he's just being held hostage, basically saying like he's tied up in Luke Fickell's basement. Like that's how they're making this out to be here. There's people out there who don't understand life. Get off your keyboard. Like these keyboard warriors out there who think that they understand things and they want to get behind a cause, right? Let's get behind a cause here. Shut up. Like, look it up. Understand life for a second. Understand contracts. When you're sitting in your mom or dad's basement down there, I'm in my own basement shooting this night here in the den, right? Down in the den here. I'm in a basement, so talking out loud.
That's your basement, though. That's the
It's my basement. I own this basement, right? But when you're sitting in your mom and dad's basement, you're like, oh, this poor little fella. Oh, this poor little fella. Just like, let's get him out of Wisconsin because they're holding him hostage. Shut up. Like, understand something for a second. Before you get on the keyboard, before you get all stupid with it, before you look at this numbnuts from Miami trying to teach you how it all works. What the heck was his name there? I can't remember his name now. What the heck was his name? Darren Heitner. That was his name.
Yeah.
Before you start reading Darren Heitner's Twitter page here, where he's being a keyboard warrior there too, right? Being a keyboard warrior. Wisconsin won't answer me. They won't answer me. Nobody cares. No, Wisconsin doesn't care who you are. When you want to talk to Wisconsin, guess what? They'll meet you in the courtroom. When they want to talk, they'll meet you. They'll meet you. They have no right, reason, anything to have to talk to you. You are some instructor down at Miami who teaches NIL. That's what you are. Nobody cares who you are. Honestly, nobody. There's tampering. We know there was tampering in this. Why did all of a sudden, here, let me put it in perspective for a second. The one team that was accused of tampering, of trying to get Xavier Lucas, is currently the university that he's residing at. Let's make that make sense for a second. Let's make that make sense. If he went to Alabama, it'd been like, why did they accuse Miami of tampering? No, he ended up at Miami. After he lives in Miami. He lives down in Florida. That's where he resides. Interesting. He goes home and then he comes back and all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I'm transferring. See you later, dudes. And then he says, well, he came up with a good, I shouldn't say excuse, but he came up with, his dad is sick and everything like that, which hopefully, your dad is okay and everything, like prayers to you and your family. But that doesn't take the contract fact out of it. I'm sorry.
That's the cold-hearted fact about the world, right?
Like, that doesn't. Like, if okay, fine. You want to take the contract out? If there was money that was already flipped hands, give it back. Give it back. Right? Easy enough. So you do that, guess what? There's your problem, right? And Dustin in the comments there, should have never paid them college guys. Should have never paid them out there, opened up this can of worms. I agree. I agreed with it when it happened. I said college guys should not be paid. I said it's going to open up a can of worms. I think the problem was, though, they don't regulate it. That's the problem. You can give them money for name, image, and likeness, but you have to regulate it. You have to put guys in structural contracts. You can't just expect young college kids to respect a contract, to give year by year. We're seeing it right now. And this is what I said from the beginning. I told you this a long time ago, Aaron. I am happy that Wisconsin is sticking to their guns. I am happy for it. And the rest of college football, I hope that Penn State, the AD at Penn State, is giving high fives to Chris McIntosh. Because Penn State could go through this same problem. So
Absolutely.
could Ohio State, so could Iowa, so could Alabama, so could Georgia. Every single team could go through this same problem. And they should all be lining up to give high fives and handshakes to Chris McIntosh right now for saying, dude, thank you. Thank you for standing up for this. Because this is going to happen down the road. This happens more than we think. It's just finally a university said, no, dude, you ain't leaving. 25 transfers going out of the University of Madison. They kept one back. They wouldn't put one guy in. Out of 25, you think Wisconsin just thought, screw it, let's tie this guy up in our basement. That'll be fun. Let's just keep him hostage, right?
That's a good look for our college.
Right? Yeah, it's going to be a good look for us, right? It's going to be a good look for the Big Ten. If the Big Ten comes out and says, yeah, we back Wisconsin in this, but we have no ground to stand on, right? People are nuts if they think the Big Ten just came out with that statement just because they're supporting Wisconsin, one of their own. The lawyers for the Big Ten would have told the Big Ten commissioner, nah, don't do that. Don't do that. Let's not mess around there, right? We don't want to stick our nose where it don't belong because it's going to come back to bite us, right? Wisconsin's lawyers. I would venture to guess, possibly, just maybe, the University of Wisconsin's probably got some pretty good lawyers sitting down there. Probably some pretty good lawyers who get, deal with this kind of stuff. And they're telling the university, like, yeah, you got ground to stand on, boys. Hold your own. Don't say a word. Just hold your own. Let's see what they do. I mean, Aaron, I'm going to give you a chance to speak on this, but this is fun. This is fun. Like like Dustin said, they're opening up a can of worms. This is a can of worms, and it's open, and it's all over the place right now, and it is just fun to watch because it's a saga. Like we said the other day, it's a story that keeps on giving. It is just a story that keeps on giving, and I can't wait to see the end.
No, I mean, you summarized that about as well as I could possibly even ask for, really. I mean, it's, when we first visited this, it was, hey, maybe Wisconsin has their hands dirty a little bit, but we were like, 90% we were on the side of like, okay, Wisconsin probably has some type of agreement that is going to bind him from not, doing this type of thing, not walking out the door. Right. And like, that's kind of where we stayed on. We're like, maybe there's a small chance, but highly doubt it. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, that would be a colossal mess up on their part, which wouldn't make any sense. Like, I don't care what college it is. You would expect the college to be run better than that. Right. And this whole situation, like, you bring the guy in from Miami. Of course, he's a professor at Miami. Right. And then he wants to go to Miami. Like, yeah, of course it is. Like, the guy's going to back his own guy. Right. Basically, like, they're in cahoots together. So yeah, it makes sense. From a Wisconsin and Big Ten standpoint, like, this is kind of what you were wishing for. Finally it comes to light. Wisconsin didn't make any comments publicly, which is, exactly why. Because when you have the upper hand, like, and especially contractually, that you're in the green, like, what's it going to do you if you say, yeah, well, Xavier Lucas isn't it? Like, if you start bashing him publicly, like, that just doesn't do you any favors when in a court of law, like, the chances of them not winning, right, it's slim to none. So yeah, it's a colossal, just like, can of worms, like Dustin said. It's just craziness, like madness, to say the least. But I look at it like, if you're Xavier Lucas, like, this is an epic fail, man. Like, this is, I don't know how you thought you were going to get out of this unscathed. I really don't. And then the fact that like, maybe you could have been something at Wisconsin. Like, if I'm Wisconsin, I'm like, look, this guy demonstrates exactly what we don't want in a player as a student athlete there. Like, there's no way he comes back there. Like, you know what I mean? He's burned that bridge on his own doing, on his own accord. And now it's like, they're not going to let him just walk to wherever he wants. I wouldn't be surprised if he can't do anything for a year. Like, that's probably the right move here, because he couldn't contractually get out of it. And then I wouldn't, like, there's no reason why Wisconsin should be on the hook for him at this point because of what he's done. Like, if he's an employee, he's fired, he's kicked to the curb, he's like completely out the building. Like, there's no employer in this country that would put up with this type of stuff. Like, I don't know any, maybe there are, but like, he's just a distraction, and he thinks he can just, I'll dip now. Even though I signed a piece of it, that's like, I live in an apartment currently, and I sign an agreement, and then I violate like 3 things within a couple months, and I'm like, oh, I'm
and then
staying.
Just leave. And then just leave.
Or like, I'm staying here regardless. I don't care. I'm staying. Like, you know what I mean? That would be, because he wants out. I want to stay. Yep. I'm bridging the contract. I'm doing exactly what they told me not to do. And I'm like, yeah, by the way, I'm not going anywhere though. Like, it's like, okay, try that though. Try and see where that gets you. Because you'll get, police will come eventually. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, come on now. Like,
I want all these keyboard warriors just to understand life for a second. That's what I want.
That's a quote too.
I want him just to think about it, right? And I'm gonna patent that. I'm gonna patent that. Keyboard warriors need to understand life. I really want them to, because you look at some of the crap that they tweet, and it's just like, yeah, let's free this guy, and you're like, you don't even understand what's happening right now. You have no clue. You're just jumping on here because you see a bunch of other people doing it, and you're hoping you get some likes, and you're hoping you get some exposure. Maybe a guy will follow you, right? I gained a follower off of saying free X, man. Just enough of it. Just enough of it, Aaron. But let's go to some good Badger news. The Badgers win their 7th straight. The men's basketball team traveled out to USC over the weekend there, got the big win, 84-69. That's 7 straight wins for the Badgers. Gotta love that. The game started out ugly. 3 turnovers on the first 3 possessions. First 3 possessions resulted in a turnover for the Badgers. And I was like, oh boy, that's not the way to start out a basketball game right there on the road. But they settled in. And it was John Blackwell once again settling them in. John Blackwell, 11 of the first 15 points against USC there. I believe, I'm not mistaken, I had it where he had the first 9 against Ohio State. He went on a 9-0 run by himself, and he had the first 11 of the first 15 against USC. So the hot starts the games for John Blackwell. You got to love that. You got to love what he's been able to produce for you there. So he does well there. I got to say this. Welcome to the season, Max Klesman. Welcome back. I don't know where you went. I don't know what happened to your brother, but I'm glad to see you back in the lineup there, because 18 points in this one, 2 for 9 from 3, but 7 for 14 from the floor. He was getting in the paint. He was hitting some turnarounds, some tough turnarounds in this game. And defensively, he was a dog. We talked about it in our preview show, Aaron. I said they got to deter passing lanes. They got to deter these passing lanes. Max Klesman was expert 101 at that. He was flipping the ball out. He's getting some turnovers there. Love to see that. So Max Klesman, welcome to it there, brother. Excuse me there. Kamari McGee. I don't know what else I have to say about this guy. Another great performance out of Kamari McGee there. He's had 10 points on the game. He shot 2 for 3 from downtown. And that 3-point percentage on the season there, Aaron, rose once again for Kamari there. He's now shooting, away games, he's shooting 66% from 3 there. But Kamari McGee on the season, 56% from 3. 56% from 3. That's over 50% from downtown. This guy has been a dog for Wisconsin. I love it. I believe that's a pretty good amount of shots too. I was just going to double check that. I believe he's averaging about 2-3 a game, 3-pointers there, and he shoot 56%. That's up from last year. You want to talk about perspective? Last season, he shot 27% from 3 as a whole on the season. He's shooting 56%. Wow. Just wow. Night and day difference there. And Greg Gard gave props to him after the game. He said he loves actually what Kamari McGee and Carter Gilmore have given to this lineup there coming off the bench. They took the long way. Walk-on was Carter Gilmore there. Both of them took the long way to get to this point. But the development, what they've been willing to sacrifice to get to this point, loves nothing but it. So they're reaping the rewards is what Greg Gard had to say. So that's what Gard had to say after this one. But Kamari McGee continues to be that guy. The Badgers got up to a big lead. First half, once again, got a big lead. At the break, they're up by 15. But USC went on a 20-4 run out of the half there to close this thing to 3 points with 10:44 to go. So that tells you just the difference that can come in there. We saw that against Ohio State. Wisconsin got a big lead going into the half. Ohio State closed the gap. Wisconsin was able to hold them off. This one here, Wisconsin, they buckled down. They got a little bit better there. I thought, and I tweeted it out there. I replied to a tweet, and a guy's like, how can you be mad? Because, this happened and this happened, but yet the Badgers still won. I was like, dude, I said, because when you're up 15 at the break, you don't always have to let the other team come back. You don't always have to do it. You can hold that lead. And I thought the Badgers, when they were able to come back there, USC was, the offense got stagnant again. There was a lot of just sticking it to one side. The ball wasn't moving to both sides of the court. It was staying on one side of the court. They were forcing a lot of threes. The shots weren't falling, but they weren't getting the shots they were in the first half. They weren't attacking. They were keeping it on the perimeter. They were sticking it to one side of the court. The ball wasn't moving to both sides. I thought Wisconsin just got away from their offense for a while. Greg Gard did speak about it there. He thought the ball pressure, and which I agree, and defensively for the Badgers, first half, intensity, boom, they turned it up. Ball screens, everything. They were after them. Ball screens were impossible. Guys getting downhill were impossible. Second half there, the ball pressure was to start that second half. They weren't getting after guys. USC was able to utilize the ball screens. They were able to knock down some threes there early, and they were able to make that little bit of a comeback there. But the Badgers settled in. They took the haymaker. They settled in, and this is what speaks volumes to me about this Badger team, is that they took that haymaker, and especially on the road, they took the haymaker and they battled back. In that final 10:31 of the game, they went on a 29-17 run to finish the final 10:31 in this game here. Love to see that. Got back to the offense, settled in. Defense turned it back up. They were fine there. Defensively, I liked what I saw defensively from the Badgers in this one, outside of what we saw in that first little stretch there in the second half. First half, I loved it. Held the team to 27 points on the road. That's hard to do. And then they held the leading scorer, Claude, from USC to 0 for 3 from the field and 0 points in that first half. Love to see that. Second half there, that's where they got a little bit hurt there. So that's where I'm kind of watching. But jumping those passing lanes was huge. And we talked about that in preview. Klesmit led the charge there. Led the charge. McGee got involved. Steve and Nolan Winter did well defensively to settle things in too, especially in that ball screen. They were right there. So I love to see that there. John Tonje, that's what I want to get to. John Tonje, no points. Leading scorer going into this one. No points. Aaron, this is what I love the most about the Badgers. John Tonje is your leading scorer. He gave you 0 points on the road. You still won by 15. I don't know many other teams that could tell you that. I don't. When you have a collective effort like the Badgers do with Blackwell, with Klesmit coming along, right? And then you have Steven Crowell and Nolan Winter putting up numbers there, and then Kamari McGee. There's not a lot of teams that have depth like that. Not a lot of teams who have scoring depth like that, right? If you look at some of the good teams, I mean, look at Duke, right? Cooper Flagg, outstanding. But if Cooper Flagg has a bad day, say he gives me 0 points in a game, I don't know. Duke's going to struggle. They're not going to win a blowout. Trust me, they're not going to win by double digits. It's going to be close. They might win, but I don't know if they have the dogs behind it. And that's where I loved Greg Gard gave props to his staff after the game there. He said recruiting-wise, the Badgers, well, the coaches did well recruiting depth positions behind guys that they already had. So keeping that depth where they could go to the next guy and he could come out there and score, like Gilmore, like a guy like Xavier Amos, like a guy like Jack Janicki or Kamari McGee, guys who can interchange and still give you buckets and give you valuable minutes. That's what Greg Gard said. I love that. I love that quote. Getting those guys in the transfer portal, recruiting some guys in to fill those spots. I love that. I love what I saw there. And having your leading scorer, your star, give you nothing, and you win that game by 15, that speaks volumes on a team. And you only shot 15 free throws. Remember that. Badgers, all they do is shoot free throws. You only had 15 in this game. Not a very high percentage there. Threes, 9 for 28. Not bad there. But Dustin did bring it up there. Turnovers, man. Turnovers, Aaron. We talked about it leading into this. The Badgers had to be careful with the basketball, and they weren't in this one. They got a little turnover happy. They got a little trigger happy, right? Especially early on, right? 3 turnovers on the first 3 possessions. That doesn't help you out at all. But just a lot of errant passes, the little things hurting themselves in these games. So you got to clean that up. But they did, like I said, I mean, you want to talk about a team that turns the ball over a lot too, USC, a team that doesn't get a lot of steals, Wisconsin, 8 steals for the Badgers in this game. So jumping passing lanes, that was huge. Getting fast break buckets and limiting what USC could do for fast break buckets. That was another thing that we wanted to look at there. So I love to see that. We did have one across text in line. Never mind. It went away. I don't know what happened there. We had one across text in line. I can't find it now. So we won't get to that one. But Greg did speak on Max Klesmit. He said Max emotionally has been good. He's been good so far. Like the cold streak has not put him down. And Greg, he always speaks on. He says, if you keep playing hard, you keep getting after it, shots will find you. Shots will find you eventually. And Max Klesmit, like he said, has been playing hard. He continues to play hard. The assists are a big thing of Max Klesmit's game. He had 4 assists in this game here. So that tells you sharing the basketball. But I just had 17 assists. That tells you that they're moving it. They're getting it to open guys, and they're knocking down shots. But Max Klesmit, like he said, emotionally has been good. He just keeps coming back, keeps playing hard. Shots are going to fall eventually, and that's what we saw there. Gard did say that, he thought Max has continued to play hard, even though the baskets weren't falling. Just wrote that down as a little tidbit off there. I just talked about that a little bit there, but had it written down as a tidbit there. Wisconsin has scored 80-plus points 11 times this season. This little stat for the end here. Wisconsin has scored 80-plus points 11 times this season. That's the most since the 2014-2015 national championship runner-up team, and they did it 11 times in total that year. Badgers have already done it 11 times this year. And I had another stat that they had up in the first half. I was going to pull that up here real fast. Over the last 6 games, Badgers, like I said, I mean, they're 7-0 in their last 7, but over the last 6, they're 6-0, 83 points a game, 49% from the field, and opponents are scoring 67 points against them. So impressive on the defensive end. And then most possessions per game, and this speaks volumes to what the Badgers have been able to do offensively on the year. The 2024-2025 team is actually up 2 possessions from the next closest one that they've had over since 1996, and that's the 2021-2022 team, which averaged 66 possessions a game. People are like, 2 possessions, that's not a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot in the game of basketball. 2 possessions. It doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a lot, right? So the tempo has been up. The good shots have been up. They're creating more, playing faster, getting more opportunities at the basket, right? More opportunities you can create, the more chance you got to score buckets, which is why we're seeing this Badger team being able to put 80-plus points up in 11 games already this season. And we're only, 18 games into the season. So you're saying out of 18 games, they have put up 80-plus points 11 times. That's impressive. That's impressive, especially for a Badger team, which hasn't really done that in the past there, as we see the Ravens fail on a 2-point attempt that would have tied the game against the Bills. So the Bills look like they're going to survive this game against the Ravens there. But, Aaron, anything else you got to add on to the end of that Badger talk there?
So, I mean, one thing that, I mean, you can look at it like 2 different ways, right? Inside the arc, I mean, they shot 22 of 27. They didn't shoot that well from the 3-point land, but like you take that, right? Like,
yeah, day.
That's efficiency. Yeah, exactly. Like that's what you like to see. I mean, like you had said, sharing the basketball for one, that's one thing, when you don't, and you're like, I think I almost picked like Tanjay to go off here. And like, I mean, you talk about a great take by me, right? Excellent take. But yeah, I mean, for him not to give you, I mean, literally nothing. Like a guy left I guess he left his not cleats, but his basketball shoes on the bus there. I mean, 1 assist and no points. Like that's just not cutting it for him. But like everybody else showed up, like you said, John Blackwell. I mean, he's the star of the game. I mean, you can make Klesmit, that as well.
Yeah.
Just all out great performance and down the stretch, right? Like down the stretch, in the second half, Wisconsin kind of leaned on those guys and just, I mean, you look at it, they scored the same amount of points in the second half, but down the stretch, Wisconsin put them away. You know what I mean? It was the way they kind of found it at times more so than obviously USC could all day. So yeah, it's a great win on the road. Like you said, double-digit win, and you move on. And like you said, not many free throw attempts, but you still 13 for 15 at the charity strike. That's why they call it the charity strike. That's what you want to get there as the Bills recover there. And like you said, are probably going to go on.
I forgot about the onside.
Yeah.
It wasn't over yet, folks. It wasn't over yet.
That one, man, Mark Andrews, talk about selling. That guy made a couple really bad plays when he needed to just make the play. But great win. Crashed the boards more than USC. Excuse me. And like you said it, they took the ball from USC and USC with the 15 turnovers. That's not going to help you. And I mean, credit to Wisconsin. They got it done. They pummeled them out in the West Coast. They continue on the West Coast now. So
UCLA on Tuesday. There. So, I mean, it should be a good one there. And you spoke on John Tanjay, and another thing I wanted to add with him was the veteran presence on this team. John Tanjay, no points. This is a guy who's used to scoring 18 a game. So, like, he wants to get his buckets. No points, but only 3 attempts. He didn't force anything. He didn't force it. He still shared the basketball. He's still, he's out there. He's moving the basketball. He's playing good defense. He's doing his thing, but he's not forcing shots. You see a lot of star players when they're not getting there as their shots aren't falling. I talked about it last year with AJ Storr, right? He's a volume scorer. The more he shoots, he's going to get about half, maybe half, probably not even half. He's going to get like a quarter. So shoots 20 times, he's going to hit about maybe 7, right? And that was the problem. John Tanjay realized, hey, maybe it's not my day. John Blackwell's having a great day. Max Klesmit's having a great day. Steven Winter having great days. Let's get the win, right? And that's what Dustin said there. Great team win. Let's get the win. That's all that matters. Let's get the win. And that's what I love about this team is even when it's not their day, they have another guy to lean on. And that's what I talked about earlier with the depth of this team. It speaks volumes to it when you see something like this. is that you have the ability to win a basketball game by double digits with your star player giving you zeros and 1 assist. Zeros and 1 assist, unless you want to count turnovers and fouls, but I don't want to count that. Outside of that, the box score said 0 for him. And he still, if you would have asked him at the end of the day, he's like, yeah, good win. Right? We moved on. We got to win, right? So now you got a game coming up against UCLA. That's going to be a good game, I think. That's going to be a heck of a game. Badgers continue this West Coast swing. That'll be... I hate that the Badgers are now with UCLA. I hate that UCLA and USC are in the Big Ten now. 8:30 tip on Tuesday there on Peacock. 8:30 at night. That's just ridiculous. I have to stay up and watch that. Like, just come on now. Can we just have an average start time? Give me like 7. Why can't, even though it's on the West Coast, why can't you start this game at 7? Give me a 7 o'clock tip. I don't need to play on Peacock. Just give me a 7 o'clock tip so I can get to bed at a reasonable time. We got 8:30 tip here for this game against UCLA. Right now, they're favoring UCLA. 57% on ESPN. They're giving it for UCLA in that one. So we'll see kind of what happens there. We'll talk about that one on Wednesday. Wednesday here when we come back. We'll recap that game and see what the Badgers look like there. Going for 8 in a row, right? Going for 8 in a row. See if they can continue on this torrid stretch. But Aaron, we got to get to a little ad break here. We're going to get the ad break, come back, get our fact of the day in, talk a little bit of Packers. I want to get a little bit of that Brian Gutekunst press conference in here. So we'll get to that. We'll get to the fact of the day, get to that, and then we'll hit the end of the show here. So we'll see you guys on the other side of the ad break.
This show is brought to you by these fantastic sponsors. Marshfield Motor Speedway, located 3 miles outside of Marshfield on County Road H. Tons of family fun for all ages. Great food, great drinks, great racing. I cannot think of a better way to spend a summer day or night than down at the track. Next is Sports Scene in Marshfield, Wisconsin, located at the Marshfield Mall. Get down there and see Al. He has everything you need, from sports cards, memorabilia, jerseys, model stock cars. He's got it all. Sports Scene in Marshfield. And then we have Peggy Sue Beslick, Century 21. Do you want to find your dream home or maybe looking to sell your current property? Let Peggy Sue Beslick at Century 21 help you with all of your housing or property needs.
Like I always tell you, Aaron, new year, new you. Buy, sell, get rid of that clunker. That's what you got to do there. So talk to Peggy down there at Century 21. So, Aaron, let's get a little bit of, we got to get to the fact of the day. I don't want to jip you on your fact of the day. You told me you had a good one today, and I don't want to miss it. What do you got, fact of the day, for January 19th?
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of touch on the weather a lot on the beginning of our shows just because we both live in some kind of crazy climates. Like, you know, it's always something going on. But on this day in 1977, Miami, Florida received snow for the first and last time ever. So what a weird fact, right? Like, it snowed. I didn't see any cube. It was probably like not even a dusting, right? It's probably like it snowed for 30 minutes and it didn't even cover the ground. But to only ever get snow one time and then it never do it again is like, that's wild. And
interesting.
Those people down there, man. I mean, trust me, I am one of those people that love the season, so I embrace it, but I can't lie. Living a year in Miami might change how I feel. They're spoiled with, I mean, very, very nice climate, I would say. Outside of the hurricanes, I mean, you got to deal with that. But
snakes, hurricanes, and alligators. That's about it. Right?
That's true.
Snakes, hurricanes, and alligators. And after that, you lost me. You lost that. You lost me after that. I ain't going down there for that. I remember my dad was telling me once he was down there golfing. My dad's a big golfer. He goes all over the state. He's really good golfer, like really good golfer. And he goes down all the time to Arizona. He went down to Florida and he hit one. And he said he hit it towards the swampy area. And he went walking over there and he heard like this hissing noise. He didn't know what it was. Didn't think of it. Walked a little bit further. There's this python laying in the grass. And there's this golf ball. He's like, yeah, I'll take a mulligan on this one. I'll move on. I'll take a mulligan. I don't want that one. He just said you go down there in golf course, you see these pythons just going across the golf course. Like, he's got pictures. I wish I had it on my phone so I could bring it up. But he's just driving his golf cart down, and there's just this big, I don't know how long of a python, but it's crossing in front of him on the golf course. And it's like, no, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Like, there's golfing and then there's that. Like, that's too much. That's too much right there. And I know I've seen on PGA and everything like that. They've had snakes and alligators out there in the water hazard and stuff like that. It's like, I love hitting in the water hazard with the best of them, but ain't no way I'm going in there for my golf ball if I'm down in Florida. That's all I know. So, Aaron, let's get into a little bit of the Brian Gutekunst press conference, because he brought up a couple of interesting things that I wanted to touch on today here on the show. So the number one thing that I saw on there was the Jair Alexander situation, because if anybody kept tabs on that, they asked him on the day of locker cleanout. They're like, hey, can we talk to you? And he basically said, like, I don't even know if I'm gonna be here next year, so I don't want to talk to any of you guys. Like, I'm just done with you. So he basically just, I'm out. So let's talk about it. So, try to get my thing pulled up on my big screen here, but it ain't cooperating with me right now. So on the Jair's future, this is what Brian Gutekunst had to say on Jair's future. Yeah, I think we'll work through that. So they asked him basically after what he was, freaking out about. They said, yeah, I think we'll work through that. Certainly we can afford to keep him. I know it's really frustrating, not only for him as a player, but us as a club. When you have a player with what he's done, and he's done for us in the past, and then not being able to get him on the field consistently, that's tough. We're at the beginning stages of gathering information as a whole before we start looking at next year and how we're going to lay things out. We could, when he's healthy and he's ready to play, he's a pretty good player. So Brian Gutekunst wants him back. He doesn't think that the relationship is what Jair Alexander made it seem like, right? Because Jair was walking out and he's like, deuces, boys. Like, I didn't get to, basically like, I don't know if I'm going to be here. It doesn't sound like I'm going to be here, so I'm going to walk out of here. I'm not going to talk to any of you guys. And that's not what I wanted to hear. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I want him back. And not because of the injuries. And this is where I think some people might disagree with me. I don't want him back because of the injuries. I don't want him back because of his leadership skills. Because he's one of the older guys on your team. He's your star corner. So when it comes to the end of the season, I want him to come and talk to me like Tucker Kraft did. Like Tucker Kraft said, where I'm going to come back next year and I'm going to be a better leader and I'm going to work my tail off. And there's a lot of people in this locker room who got to wake up. And he spoke the truth to you. That's what I want out of Jair Alexander. I don't want Jair Alexander to say, deuces, boys, I'm out of here, right? That I'm done with you, that you don't want me back, so I don't want you back, right? I don't want my leader of my team to do that. You're still under contract, dude. Like, nobody said that you're leaving. Nobody said that. They have the option to cut you, which I was looking at that the other day. And what is it? I mean, honestly, I was looking at the contract breakdown. What does it really do for you? I mean, honestly, he's going to make more at the same time, but it's like, if you cut him going into next year, you save $6 million. If you cut him the year after, you save $17 million. You could keep him for this next year and cut him next and save 17. Like, you'll be fine there. So I don't want him. I didn't want him gone because of the injuries, or the injuries and the availability are the hard part, right? I hate that. I wish he was more available. I do. But I don't want him back because he can't lead this team. He can't. He doesn't have the leadership skills. And when you have what is he supposed to be then? He's your star. He's your veteran guy in that cornerback room. Why do I want my young corners that I'm going to bring into this roster learning from that guy? Because they get them same tendencies sometimes. They gather that same information. They're like, well, this is the way Jair did it, so let's do it like this, right? Let's talk to the media like this. I don't want that. That's a terrible look in the locker room. I don't want a guy in my locker room like that. So, I don't know, Aaron. Is that a far off base? Like, to think like that? Like, the injuries, they suck, right? But I don't not want him back because of that. When I hear what he had to say after the meeting, or during the meetings and everything like that, that's what kind of puts me on edge. Is like, this dude can't be a leader. And I don't need everybody to be a leader, but I need him to be able to at least follow in line. And when a reporter or somebody just wants to talk to you, not to give a stupid answer like that, where you're like, basically, deuces, like, this team doesn't want me, so I'm out. Like, acting like the world owes you one, and like the world's fallen on you. Like, dude, you didn't get to play. I'm sorry, but you were hurt. It happens. But like, we just want to know you're going to come back next year and you're going to get better. Like, the little things. But you go out like that, it's like, I don't know.
No, I agree. I wouldn't even like, personally, I'm very much like, if a guy's injured a lot, like, availability is like number one to me. Like, if you're not available, that's a killer. Like, there's guys out, and I'm not saying it's his fault, right? But there's guys out there that just, they step on the field and they twist their ankle. It's just, it's craziness. Like, and he just unfortunately happens to be one. I mean, for me, that would, like, if I'm sitting there as a Packers fan, I'm like, dude, this guy can't stay healthy for more than a couple games, consecutively. Like, that would just irritate me to no end. I mean, if somehow we got him back on a real team friendly deal, that would be the only way, in my opinion. But then, like, this is like the straw that broke the camel's back to me, because once again, like, he's not available often. He's good when he's in there, but how much is he in there? And then, like you said, the leadership skills get called into question. And yeah, he's your guy that you want other guys to follow suit. And if he's conducting himself in that manner, it's like, dude, we can maybe we can't find the exact talent you have, but we can find another one of you at the drop of a hat. Like, there's guys everywhere. There's guys they're watching on the Bengals. There's guys, and probably not the Bengals. Any other team though that has like somewhat of a defense, they can go get. So yeah, that's poor. That's piss poor in my opinion. It's just, I don't know. That doesn't sit like. If I'm the Packers, hey, good riddance, man. Like, go get injured on another. I'm not wishing for injury, but go play a couple games somewhere else and see how they treat you. Because maybe the grass isn't always greener too. Like, maybe we tried to give you the benefit of the doubt and you weren't available, and now your leadership skills are suspect at best. And it's just, that's not a good look for a guy that's, it's an unknown where if he's gonna get paid. It really is. So I just. Yeah, I would just kind of shake hands and say adios to him at this point.
Well, and I forgot about this part about the quote. I did research it just to make sure that I had the quote right. He said he declined to talk, saying that he did not know if he'd be with the team the following year, but he also said he didn't have anything good to say. That's what he said. I don't have nothing good to say. That's what irked me the most, was when he said, I don't have anything good to say. It's like, dude, you don't have nothing to say in general right now. All we want to hear you say is, I'm going to work hard in the offseason. I'm going to get my body right. I'm going to get my legs right. I'm going to get everything right. I'm going to come back next year. We're going to kick some pants. Like, that's what I want to hear you say. Step up for one moment in your life. Step up. But instead, I ain't gotten anything good to say. You could have came out and said, hey, you should talk to Evan Williams because he had a fantastic year as a rookie safety. Talked about him. Talk to Adrian Cooper. He had a fantastic year at linebacker. Like, there's so many good things that you could have said. But you decided to say, I have nothing good to say. I'm probably not going to be with the team next year. See you later. And just walked out the door. So I guess that's where it kind of irked me with him there. But he went on to say, so Goodikins went on to talk about it here. We'll get on with this one here. He went on to talk about Jordan Love. And he said, I know Matt LaFleur has probably talked about it as well. We're very excited about his growth. Not just on the field, but not only as a player, but in the locker room as a leader. I've talked many times about how even-keeled he is. I think his growth and the way he manages our football team has been pretty impressive. Obviously, he went through some things this year, battled through some injuries, and he hadn't done that before. He came out on the other side of it, and I was really proud of him and how he went through it. He's leading our team exactly how we want him to do it, so I'm excited about that. So, I mean, Brian Gutekunst's basically telling you, like, I don't waver how I feel about Jordan Love. I know a lot of fans have wavered about it. Brian Gutekunst isn't concerned. It is something to go through the amount of injuries that Jordan Love did go through, right? He had the groin injury. I mean, that's tough, right? You go through injury early on in the season. You don't really get settled in. You have the problems within the offense already. You have Romeo Doubs constantly out on you. Not his fault, but concussions and everything like that. You constantly have problems. That doesn't help. Now you just go into the offseason. You got to work on the little things, right? And Matt LaFleur, I guarantee you, is going to be, I hope to be all over that, improving that. So we'll see kind of how that does there. But on Jordan Love, Gutekunst is all good there. Let's see here. He said on the Packers needing a number one wide receiver. So that's a hot topic, right? Everybody thinks that the Packers need a number one. Brian Gutekunst, I don't know. He's kind of on the opposite side of the fence with that one. He said, I think historically, if you look at a lot of teams, very rarely do teams have one receiver that's very super heavy with targets. That usually doesn't play out well in the playoffs. I agree with that. I do. You can't win with one guy. You can't. You got to have a spread out. Excuse me there. You got to have the go-to guy, right? Which I think they were hoping Dobbs would become, but he didn't. But Christian Watson, you've been constantly battling things with him, Dontavian Wicks, all those kinds of, like, you've been battling problems with it. And then within the offense, right, the play calling I thought was inept. I thought the play calling was bad. So do you need that number one wide receiver? It's nice to have a guy who separates himself a little bit, right? But you got to have other guys. And I think that's kind of what he's saying is, like, I don't think Brian Gutekunst is like sitting there saying, well, I hope Jaden Reed and all these guys just stay the same, right? They stay even keeled with each other. I think he's hoping a guy takes that next step to be the guy, but you have to have those other guys grow with him too. So I do agree with that. You can't just rely on one guy to be it, because then come playoff times, right? I mean, you look at, say the Eagles only had AJ Brown, right? And the rest of the guys were kind of scrubs. What is every good defensive coordinator going to do with their secondary? They are going to put everything they got on stopping AJ Brown, and they're going to say everybody else beat us. And they don't want to look that way. And that became a problem with Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. It was like Rodgers would only look that way. He would only look to Devontae. He wasn't looking for Lazard. He wasn't looking for anybody else. He wanted Devontae. That leads to problems. So I agree. I mean, Aaron, I agree with them that historically, like, you want to win a Super Bowl, you got to have a bunch of guys, right? Julian Edelman, you had Julian Edelman, Gronk, you had Chris Hogan. All those guys could catch passes. Wes Welker was there at one point, right? I mean, you had all these guys who could catch passes for you. They were good enough, right? And then you had a guy who excelled, right? But you got to have guys who are right there with them. You just have to have a guy to step forward. And I think the big thing with the Packers is you got to have one of those guys, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. Christian Watson won't be back till at least week 12, they said, but probably even further than that. Or if you go into the draft, you got to find a guy who's going to take that next step, who's going to become the guy. You're short down. I think the thing the Packers are missing is the go-to guy on 3rd down and 5, right? Who am I going to hit? Who am I looking for on 3rd down and 5 where we are looking to run something for this guy? And I think Tucker Kraft has the ability as a tight end to be one of those guys, to be the go-to guy in those short yard situations, like a Jake Ferguson is for Dak Prescott, or a Travis Kelce is for Patrick Mahomes. Look at what Patrick Mahomes does with some of the guys that he has at wide receiver. And then he's got Travis Kelce. If you can incorporate more Tucker Kraft, and then you have production from Dobbs, and you have Reed take a step forward. The drops were a problem, right? Have Reed take a step forward. Have these other guys like Wicks take a step forward. And then maybe you go into the draft, you grab a guy late round or whatever, and he develops into a guy. I think you're fine. I do. I think you're fine. I think you need to see guys take that next step. And I think the problem and why everybody came back to this question was nobody took that step. I think they have the guys. Jaden Reed's a fantastic receiver. He's got a lot of talent. I think he can take that step. It's just a question of, does he? Does he put the work in? The drops were the problem. Otherwise, he had 800 yards receiving on the year. Like he had the yardage. He was getting up there. It's just the drops again were a problem. Dontavian Wicks, drops, right? Romeo Doubs, 2 concussions, did not help. Christian Watson, he was banged up every once in a while, but then the big season ending, and now he's going to be out for a while. But you didn't have that guy take that next step. And I think that's my problem with it. I think that they'll figure it out with what they have. I don't think they're going to go get T. Higgins. Maybe Devontae. I would not be opposed to Devontae. Just a veteran leader in there who can be a guy to instill confidence, instill morale, and help these young guys take that next step. That's where I would look. I wouldn't look to bring in a guy like T. Higgins because I don't see how that's going to be that thing that pushes them up, right? I don't see how that's going to be the one thing that puts them over that finish line.
Yeah, I'm sort of in between on that one, just because, like, not to say that these guys can't make the next step. I hate relying on the whole, like, the faith thing where it's like I have faith that they'll take that next step, because there's just no, like, I'm not saying they can't, but like when you just kind of like go into a season like, well, we've seen improvement, you know, we're going to see him take the next step. Like, you just don't know. Not to say that he will, not to say that he won't. I just feel like if they go out and get somebody like even Devontae, right? That now you have a guy that's like, it's going to make everyone better because it's going to force them to be better almost. You know what I mean? Like if you're running it back with the same group and you just expect this guy to step up and that guy, like maybe they do, but it's more likely than not one guy would. I just don't see like a nucleus of guys getting a lot better. Like Tucker Kraft from year 1 to year 2 has shown improvement. Like that's guaranteed. So if he doesn't improve next year, then you're like, okay, why didn't he? Like you expect it at this point. These other guys, like you said, Jaden Reed, like they're promising guys. They're not like, I'm not saying they're bums. Like they're not like trash cans out there, but
they're twos. They're twos who you don't know if they can take that next step.
Right. Exactly. They're still a question. Like they're questionable. You know what I mean? As far as like being the guy, being like, and honestly, like, you know, that goes back to Love too. Like, okay, how is he going to get, is he going to play better next year? You know what I mean? Like he's got to play better to put these guys in the best position. to win, to excel, to have, success there. So yeah, I mean, I totally get where Gutekunst is coming from. Like, you can't just like you said, if you just had like AJ Brown, everybody else is like trash cans, then you're in trouble. But on the opposite side, you can't just not have a guy you need to go to at the same, you know what I mean? Like, and the same token. So I think they're missing like one, like, to me, they're missing a guy, you know what I mean? Like they need a dude, like you said, after the Eagles game, they have a bunch of guys. They need the dude, you know what I mean? And Kraft can be that, I think, but outside of that,
if you almost design it like the Chiefs, like I'm looking at the Chiefs stats right now. Like I pulled them all up for the regular season. Who led them in yards? Travis Kelce.
Yep.
After that, Xavier Worthy had 638 yards. Now, I'm not saying Jaden Reed is Xavier Worthy, right? Because I think Xavier Worthy and Jaden Reed, they have two different skill sets. But Jaden Reed had over 800 yards receiving. And I think Tucker Kraft had about 700 yards receiving. So it's like, if you have to involve the tight ends more. I think we went through a stretch there. What did we say? Like 3 games where Tucker Kraft had no catches and no targets. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, Tucker Kraft wasn't even being utilized within the offense, which you cannot go away from a playmaker like that. And I think that's part of it too. And that's why I said the play calling is a problem too. Because when you have a dominant tight end, which we think Tucker Kraft can be as a dominant tight end, he can get you extras, right? I think he was top in the league in yards after catch for tight ends. And that's up there with George Kittle, Travis Kelce, all these good tight ends. So he's fantastic. He's not going to be a home run hitter, but he's going to be a guy to move the chains. And that's where I think they have to utilize him. We're talking about a guy you need to go to on 3rd and short. Tucker Kraft's your dude, right? That's where you got to look. I wouldn't be opposed to bringing in a guy like the Chiefs brought in DeAndre Hopkins. He's on the back end of his career. He's not DeAndre Hopkins of the Texans time, but he gave him good production. And that's where we're looking like Devontae Adams. I don't think T. Higgins is what's going to be the answer. Yeah, you bring in T. Higgins, you might light the world on fire, but you just spent a boatload of money to do it. You just spent a boatload of money to light the world on fire. I think with good play calling and utilizing what you have in-house and then bringing in a guy like Devontae Adams just to be that veteran leadership, I think that takes it to the next level. I think that does. I think they have what they need. You have Josh Jacobs. You have a good offensive line. We know Jordan Love can be elite. We know that they have good tight ends. Luke Musgrave was out for a while this season. You get him back. He's got the ability to blow a top off defense as a tight end. He's got some speed. So you bring him back into the fold. You get Dontavian Wicks right. Jaden Reed stops dropping the ball. You instill some confidence with Devontae Adams coming in and working with these guys. You instill that confidence there. I think the offense is fine. I do. I just think you have to utilize what you have, right? You got to utilize what you have. And that's what we got a couple questions I'm missing on the text here. We don't mean to miss you guys there. Kyle, nice to see you here tonight. He says, I agree. Diversify the offense more with including Kraft and the tight ends more. I agree 100%. If you can utilize what you have in house already to what it should be, I think they're fine. I think they got away from what made them good. Right? Look at what we talked about last season there. How many times did you watch Packers recap and you're watching some of the touchdown throws they had? And for some ungodknown reason, Tucker Kraft was running down the field wide open with nobody around him. But that's just because that play call just schemed him open fantastic. Matt LaFleur coached 2 good games this year. 2 of his greatest games were with Malik Willis playing quarterback. And that's simply because he had to coach the game. He had to change it. He had to scheme for Malik Willis. That's it. Outside of that, I don't like his play calling. I don't. And he needs to be better. He needs to be better. Otherwise, you got to bring somebody else in. I know we had Todd in here the other night, and he said bring in an OC that can actually call games. If Matt LaFleur can't get the job done play calling for you, bring in somebody to do it. That's plain and simple. Bring in somebody to do it. We did have a couple other ones. Kyle did say, and I agree with, one guy has to separate and be that guy that Jordan Love needs. I agree with that 100%. I agree with you there, Kyle. He did say, what time do the Ravens play next week? I think it's like 2 a.m. in Korea. I think they play at 2 a.m. in Korea there. I'd have to fact check you there. Dustin did say growing pains with quarterback coach retiring. Tom Clements is retiring. We could see some growing pains. We could. We don't know how much. The thing with it is Jordan Love's footwork got worse this year. I thought his footwork got worse. I thought he was getting a little loose with it. I thought he was doing some dangerous dropbacks there. And I thought, we talked about it a lot. We said Jordan Love throws to the open guy. He doesn't throw a guy open. He doesn't throw when the slant route's happening. He waits until the guy is wide open before he throws it. He doesn't throw it on the break. And I think that's part of the problem too. I really do. I think that's part of the problem. Like when you watch Joe Burrow throw to Jamar Chase, and I know those two have been doing it for years, so it helps out a lot. But you watch him when he goes to the end zone, he runs a little out route or a little drag. That ball's coming when he makes the break. Like he knows, like boom, boom, ball's there, right? I can't say the last time I saw Jordan Love do that. And I think that's part of the problem is that he's over. I don't know. I think it's real. Honestly, I think it's something between the ears with Jordan Love. And I think if Matt LaFleur and him can just get together in the offseason, they get with the receivers, they get together, they work through these things, I think they're fine. We saw Jordan Love be an elite quarterback. We saw him be that elite quarterback. It's just he never got back to that elite quarterback status. We saw it for that 8-game stretch last season. We just didn't see him get back to that. And like Justin said there, he was playing hurt a lot. I agree. Yeah, he was playing hurt, and that doesn't help, right? And that didn't help when he came back. I thought maybe he came back too early because they couldn't run under center. Matt LaFleur, we talked about that the other day on the show here. Matt LaFleur didn't want to run under center because the analytics told him this, and I told him to take the analytics, turn it sideways, and shove it straight up his candy behind because I'm done with that. I'm done with the old analytics talk there. Sometimes you got to do it. I don't understand it because the analytics might have told you when you run out of the gun that this works a lot better, sure. But you know what under center does, and that's what I don't understand, is when you run under center, you turn your back to the defense. There is so many possibilities that can happen when a quarterback turns their back to a defense, right? You can keep it. You can run, right? You can hand it off Josh Jacobs. You can tuck it. You can flip it. You can run the play action. You could do so many things under center. You get Josh Jacobs running downhill with a full head of steam. You can do all those things. But yet, Matt LaFleur's like, oh, the analytics told me that shotgun works better with the run. Okay. How'd that work for you against the Eagles? Work out well? Probably not. Maybe we got to switch some things up, huh? Against the Vikings for 3 quarters, how did it work? How'd the analytics work for you, right? How'd the first 15 plays on your script work? Because the offense came out stale again. How many times do we have to watch the offense come out stale in a game and the script be wrong, right? The analytics telling you to write that script because it sucks. So I think, end of the day, this whole team needs to take a reflection look there. So I would agree, though. He played a lot injured this year, and that doesn't help. Like we talked about earlier, I mean, that doesn't help at all. Like Gutekunst said, and like we agreed with there, that doesn't help at all. Being injured, having to work through that, and not having to experience injury before, right? I mean, you're a quarterback who hasn't experienced like injuries in season before and trying to work your way back in season and then getting back in a gameplay. That's tough. That's hard. That's hard to do. And then your coach is trying to compensate for you within the offense. Like, it's just asking for problems. There. So let's get to one more. We'll get to one more before we wrap it up here. Gutekunst did say they did fire their defensive line coach. There. So Gutekunst sounds like he's like pretty okay with what they have on the defensive line. I think he just fired the defensive line coach because he's like, I think we have talent. It's just not being grown. The talent's not getting better. Lucas Van Ness, I love when Bill Michaels always says he looks like Tarzan, but he plays like Jane. That's what he always says. Like Lucas Van Ness, you look at that dude, he is a behemoth of a man, but he stinks. And Gutekunst fired the defensive line coach. So it could be because he thought these guys aren't progressing. They're not getting better. And where do we have to start with that? We start with our coach. Why is he not getting these guys better? That's where you got to start, right? So I still think he might add there. And plus, you got all that cap space now. I think he might. I am hoping that they go with what Josh Jacobs said when he said he's going to get some of his guys in there and they call the Raiders and they get Max Crosby. I really am. I'm looking at Max Crosby and I'm looking at Myles Garrett and I'm like, just go get him. Because Rashawn Gary didn't have his greatest year. But when you have guys on the opposite of them, like Lucas Van Ness or young guys who aren't really there yet, you put a lot more attention onto a guy like Rashawn Gary, and everybody else is getting single. Like I watched so many times Rashawn Gary's getting double teamed out there, and we have a single blocker on the other side holding Lucas Van Ness, and Rashawn Gary's trying to bull rush 2 guys. And it's like, okay, I get Rashawn Gary's getting paid to be better. But also when you're getting doubled, I mean, it's hard. And I know Jeff Hafley had to do a lot of things just to try and get Rashawn Gary through, right? He ended up at one point he was playing almost like a spy kind of. He was circling back to the center and he was coming straight up the gut. Like he was having him just circle and try to find an opening on the line and just go through it, right? And that was pre-play. So he was trying a lot of different things that he could do with Rashawn Gary. I just think if you had another pass rusher in there, it's going to open up Rashawn Gary. It'll allow him to create more pressure because it's when you have a star pass rusher like a TJ Watt or a Nick Bosa or something like that. Like those guys can find ways to get into the backfield. But when you don't have any help, if TJ Watt didn't have any help on the defensive line, like nobody else was creating pressure along with him or helping him out, they would just double him up and TJ Watt would become a non-factor. We saw that in the playoff game. He became a non-factor. And that's what kind of happened to Rashawn Gary. Now, I'm not saying Rashawn Gary is to the level of what TJ Watt is. No way. Like, he's not there. But he's still a talent. It's just a matter of getting him help on the defensive line. Devontae Wyatt was banged up. He was never out there. Talking about big money, Kenny Clark was a no-show this year. Kenny Clark was a no-show. You talk about your D tackles there. Kenny Clark was a no-show. And then Preston Smith, I mean, he didn't fit the system. He ended up saying that, so he got traded out to the Steelers there. And then you were kind of trying to fill guys. Brent Cox, you were throwing in. Egabar was, pass rusher. You had guys who were trying, right? But they just weren't developing. And they fired the defensive line coach, so hopefully that helps there.
I mean, that's one place to start, right? That's one like if you don't change anything, I'm not going to say you expect no difference, but it's tough to even have a difference if you like it's an area like you said. I mean, if they think the guys in the building, maybe they're not all stars, right? But they didn't take any steps forward and like it's coaching that's holding them back. That's the right move to make. Like at some point you got to shake things up, right? Like I'm all for that. I'm not saying you got to fire every position coach every year and stuff like that. But at some point you evaluate, hey, is this guy maximizing our players at that position? Like that's something you should go around after every offseason and evaluate that, letter grade the coach, is the receivers coach doing his job? Is the linebackers coach doing his job? All of that. Because all those things collectively, like, they matter more than people realize. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things that's overlooked. It's, who's your head coach? Oh, if you're in Jacksonville, your head coach, Doug Peterson. Well, it's Doug Peterson's fault. I'm not saying it wasn't, right? But there might be he might have like half his coaching staff might be garbage. Like really, I mean, truthfully, you'll never know, but that stuff matters. And hey, I mean, shake things up. Maybe the next guy that comes in gets more out of them. Like I know the Eagles O-line coach gets like, Stoutland there. He gets, I would say, the most out of any O-line in the game. Any person that comes into that building, he gets kind of the most out of them. Like you're seeing that with, well, he didn't have a good game today, Beckham, but like that guy was, cut by the Jets. Like, it goes back to like that's, quarterbacks from other teams. Oh, they go to this team. Like look what the Vikings were able to do this year with Darnold there. So you never know what a position coach could possibly do. Like, they might take a massive step forward with a different guy. So I'm never opposed to that. You kind of highlighted that all year long. They had their moments, but they were never consistently bringing like those guys outside of maybe Gary. They weren't really, showing up. And it's like, okay, what can we do to change that going into next year? You already addressed that, early on. So,
yeah, no, I like it. And it's the problem of if you don't fire the coach, do you accept that your draft was terrible, right? Because Lucas Van Ness was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was a first-round draft pick. So if you sit there and you say to yourself, oh, yeah, like, our coach is doing fine, Lucas Van Ness is just a bust, then it's like, I sucked at drafting, right? Because you look back at the Packers' first-round picks over the years, not a lot of hits, right? Which leads to a lot of controversy then of who's doing a good job in there. Did you look up Lucas Van Ness? He's a first round pick.
Yeah.
I believe he's like 15th, wasn't he?
Yeah. Let me see there.
Was he like 15th in the draft? I can't remember now. 15th, 25th?
First round. Of course.
God,
13th.
Even worse, right? Even worse. If you're going to accept that's a bust, that sucks, right? So you think that he has the physical attributes. It's like, why isn't he developing the next level? So I agree with the Gutekunst. Get him out of there and see what you can find out there. But, you don't want to see anybody get fired. But if he's not doing his job and you don't think he's doing his job the right way, that's what you got to do there. I did see I went on his press conference here. We got so much more we're going to talk about within Brian Gutekunst's press conference and Matt LaFleur's press conference there. We haven't even tapped into him yet. But he did say it doesn't sound like the Packers are desperate to get after that first round. But Gutekunst, he was open to getting that another pass catcher. So he's open to it. It doesn't sound like he's aggressively pursuing it. So I did see somebody was like rumoring T. Higgins. I don't think they're aggressively pursuing T. Higgins, but like if it fell into their laps, maybe if the price came down, maybe. Devontae Adams, I think listening to Devontae, he sounds like he wants to come back to Green Bay. I don't think Green Bay would be opposed to it. So maybe if they could work out a trade there, I mean, it wouldn't cost you much. I don't think, to get him away from the Jets. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what they kind of do there. But Aaron, we're at the end of the show. We're actually 10 minutes over. Son of a gun, we went long tonight here. But Aaron, we got anything else before we wrap it up for the night here? Anything else crazy happening in the world of sports?
Not necessarily crazy, I would say. It should be interesting with these playoff games as we come down the wire again. I mean, I hope it's I mean, even sitting here, as an Eagles fan, I don't want it to be Eagles Chiefs again. Like, that would make me kind of sick. Even if if we do get through the Commanders, I don't know. I'm like 50-50. I'm not going to be like one of these crazies that like it's the Commanders, the Commanders are going all the way and win the whole thing. Like, well, let's pump the brakes on that too. You know what I mean? Like, we can kind of be somewhere in the middle, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, if the Bills don't do it this year too, it's like when that's another team where it's like, man, they're due to at least go. I mean, they at least got to go at some point,
I want the Commanders and the Bills. I think that'd be a great Super Bowl. Remember that game out there? It was the Rams and the Bills, and it was like 40-something to 40-something was the final. What the heck was that final score? It was something ridiculous. Oh, I can't remember now.
There's Chiefs-Bills games, too, like that have gone
Those get tough, too. I was just, what the heck was that final score of that Bills and Rams game there? Let's see here. Bills, 44-42. Like, I could see a Bills-Commanders Super Bowl being like 45-42. Like, I could. Like a Josh Allen, Jay Daniels shootout. That would be awesome. If it's Chiefs and it's Eagles, I think it's going to be a slow-paced dogfight.
Probably.
I really do. There ain't no fireworks with the Chiefs offense, and right now there ain't no fireworks with the Eagles offense outside of Saquon Barkley. Right now, if you wanted a high-flying Super Bowl, it's Bills and Commanders. Like, that would give you your dogfight. I honestly don't know. I'll be honest with you. Like, all hats off to Patrick Mahomes and the way that he does things and everything like that. I don't know if they have the weapons to win a shootout with the Commanders. Like, if the Commanders came out and they played a game like they did against the Lions the other night there, I don't know if the Chiefs could battle back with that. I don't know if they have the weapons to be able to go back at the Commanders. Kind of like the Lions, too. I mean, the Lions kind of fell for that one, too. But, I mean, Patrick Mahomes probably won't throw as many picks as what Jared Goff did.
And yeah, like, my defense to that is, well, with the Chiefs, right? And, with the Commanders, I want to say the Commanders' defense is, like, not great. I would say
no. Not great. They have some playmakers. Like, that defensive line is the thing. Bad.
And then on the flip side, the Chiefs defense, I think, would get after Jane. Like, he'd be uncomfortable. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I just think they got handed a lot. And the Detroit defense.
I don't know if that guy gets uncomfortable. I'll be honest.
That's true. No, that's true.
I don't know if he gets uncomfortable. Like, you could throw Chris Jones at him at 100 miles per hour, and I don't know if he moves. Like, I think he throws the football.
No, I agree. I don't know if he can do it against, I just Detroit's defense didn't wow me all. Like, with all the injuries, but like, I'm not trying to take it away from him. I'm just saying, like, he was in a good position to have the game. Like, and you even alluded to it, hey, this is a game where Jane Daniels can go, and that's why you picked him, really. So, I don't know. I mean, but I will say, I have a lot of Ravens people near me, and it's already. I kind of give.
You can smell the smoke. It's burning.
Well, I can kind of get behind. Like, hear me out. Like, I want to get your take on it before we get off here. Lamar turned the ball over. I always am going to be like, Lamar doesn't get it done in the playoffs because he doesn't. Like, it just, I don't excuses, whatever. It's a team game. But man, I will say in this one, just like I say, Drew Aller screwed Penn State. Mark Andrews screw. I mean, I wouldn't. I'd say Mark Andrews, you get your own flight back. I mean,
You
come
can't
on.
throw a better ball than Lamar Jackson did to Mark Andrews. That was
And a
it.
couple times tonight.
But that 2-point conversion was in his breadbasket.
That's what I mean. You can't
Just hang on to the football, dude. You have nothing. There's nothing else you got to do on that day. Like
fall down, literally fall down. It's just,
there was that touchdown throw Stafford had to what's that guy's the Parkinson? I think is his name, the tight end from the Rams. There is that his last name? I think it's Parkinson.
not Higbee. The other one.
Yeah, I think it's like Parkinson or something like that. But he had that touchdown late. And I mean, that was a sling. That ball got slung through there, and he held on fingertips down to the end zone there. And it's just like, if you can hang on to that, how does Mark Andrews falling backwards, hands on the football, not hold on to that baby? Like, that's just Ravens fans, that's a terrible way to lose. Just like the Rams, though, that's a terrible way to lose. Matt Stafford giving you no shot to win it. Mark Andrews dropping the ball on a 2-point conversion. That would have forced overtime.
I don't know. You talk about, we talked about with Penn State, close. The Ravens are the definition of close. You know what I mean? And you bring in Derrick Henry. I really thought that was going to be like I was scared of that all year. Like, I was like, man, that's a problem. And like, they even set that record, like, quarterback and running back tonight, each with over 1,000 in 1 year. First time like ever, I think. Don't quote me on it, but I don't know, man. Like, I want to put this game on Lamar. Like, I still do kind of put it on Lamar. The turnovers killed him, and like, that pick was awful he threw. But man, like, he had him in, like, this time he marched him. Like, every time you think he can't march him down the field and tie it, win it. Like, that's always been like, oh, can he do that? He did it, and like, for Mark Andrews to drop that, I'm like, dude, I wouldn't want. That
play was perfection. That play, like 2-point conversion play, was perfection. They ran the pick. Mark Andrews came out wide open. There's nobody in the area code. I get it's slippery, but dude, that's fundamentals, man. I mean, when you play in the snow, you got to know. You just got to know. And the Ravens dropped that game 27-25. So our playoffs are set now. We're going to talk more about that later on this week. But Chiefs, Bills, and then we have Eagles and Commanders. So those are two pretty good storylines in both of them. Division rivals and the Chiefs and Bills. Like, Josh Allen, can he get over the hump, right? Can he get over the hump? I hope he does. I hope he wins an Arrowhead. And I want to see Commanders and Bills just because neither one's been there in a while. And it just makes for better football, right? Because you have the Eagles or you have the Chiefs, and you have the Chiefs again. It's like this repeat. And it's like you got the controversies with the reffing and everything like that. If you get Bills Commanders, nobody cares, right? I mean, people care, but it's just like, nobody's got
there's
like
not
this.
Hatred, right?
There's not hatred. There's not hatred. You're like, I hope Jay Daniels wins. I hope Josh Allen wins his first one. Like, there's no hatred towards either team heading into that one, unless you're an Eagles fan, right? Unless you're an Eagles fan, you're like, I hate the Commanders. But outside of that, it's like nobody really cares what happens in that one. So, Aaron, we got to get out of here. We ran a little bit long. We got to get out of here. We're going to be back on Wednesday. We're going to talk more about this Brian Gutekunst press conference, talk about some of the things that he had to say in there. We're going to have more Packer talk, more Badger talk, because the Badgers will be taking on UCLA coming up on Tuesday, so we're going to get into that game. Maybe some Brewer talk. We'll see what we got to talk about with the Brewers there. We're going to get into it all. Kyle, he's in the comments tonight, but he's going to be on the show on Wednesday there. We're going to get him in. We're going to talk about the Bucs because we have not talked about the Bucs in a while. Kyle's my guy. We're talking about Bucs there, so we're going to get into that on Wednesday here on the show. So with that, for Aaron and myself, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you guys, excuse me there, back here on Wednesday. But until then,